Hi, welcome to I Tried to Eat My Phone. I'm Karen Jaworski, and I'm joined today by my friend Andy. And we're going to talk about music today. Um, I This is kind of a trite question, but one that I love to ask people is what was the first concert that you ever went to?
The first concert I went to was to see the band X. I was in about fourth grade. It was at the MSU Union Ballroom, and it was insanely loud. And I was probably the youngest kid there. But during the opening band, X was in the audience, and they were talking to people. They talked to my brother, who was 13 or 14 at the time,
Uh-huh.
and afterwards, my ears just hurt and they were ringing and I tried to be cool about it afterwards. And as we were coming out, I said to my dad and brother, I was like, um, you guys' ears ringing? Oh yeah. "Hey, when's that gonna stop? Oh, it doesn't. So I had that fear going to bed that night.
Just a little tinnitus. That's all right.
That was the first one.
Wow, that's cool. I feel like we grew up in a great place for seeing music.
We did.
I
Although I
my
want to add to that story just a little bit because
Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago, Dana and I saw John Doe, who was one of the founding members of
Mhm.
X, at City Winery, and you got an opportunity to talk with him. And so I told him that story, or at least that was the first concert that I had been to.
Uh-huh.
When was that? I said, maybe 83, 84. He's like, nah, it couldn't have been that. I was like, okay. So I at least got to tell.
That's great. I remember seeing, gosh, I don't even remember where they played, but I remember seeing They Might Be Giants.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first concert. And then maybe I think my dad and I saw the Rolling Stones at um, Michigan State.
Oh,
Uh,
94?
yeah,
Yeah, I went to that concert too.
yeah.
I went with Mike and his wife Karen.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
That was actually a really good concert, and they played a lot of stuff that they don't usually play, and
yeah,
a lot of things that were not, quote unquote hits. So I love that concert.
yeah. I think between that and I think that the whatever they used to call it, the Summerfest or whatever at Michigan State University,
Oh yeah,
where they had a lot of great bands. Like, I remember seeing Earth, Wind, and Fire there, and I remember seeing there were several bands that I saw there that I was like, I look back on now and I'm like, oh my gosh, that actually was really cool to go see
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, and at the time it was like, the oldies, but they're still going. It's like, no, they were still not even halfway through their career yet.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have an album or CD in your collection that you're mildly embarrassed to
Oh
have?
yeah. I used to ask people this question, and I remember when I was in
Really?
college, I used this as an icebreaker for some meeting. And somebody got really uptight about it. It's like, I don't have any albums that I'm embarrassed by. You're an idiot.
Have some humility, like
Yeah.
get over
Um,
yourself.
well, I have a turntable that I got, within the last few years, and I've been fairly selective about vinyl that I get. Um, I think I've gotten rid of it, but I had a Moody Blues greatest hits that
Oh, you were embarrassed by that?
yeah.
Oh, Tuesday Afternoon is one of my favorites. I
Oh
love that
yeah.
song.
Well, it's isn't that called Nights in White Satin?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. No, and that's why I bought it. That was the one I liked. That was the one I liked. But then oh well. And it was used in was it used in The Departed? I think it might have been used in The Departed.
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah, it
Yes.
was it was it was good use of it there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that was
yeah.
perfect for that.
What, what
I forgot about that.
what's your embarrassing one?
I think I had, well, hmm, I haven't really thought about this. I
You
asked
want
the
to think about
questions,
the
I don't think about the answers. No, well, okay, I will say that um, I, one of my favorite songs is Heroes by David Bowie.
Mhm.
And I will admit that I have the soundtrack to the Godzilla movie that was later on, and the Wallflowers did a cover of it.
Oh yeah.
I was not a huge Wallflowers fan, but their cover of that, I like that.
I'll
And that's maybe I feel a little sacrilege, like that. I mean, the David Bowie, his own song is great, but for some reason, I just love the Wallflowers cover of that. Like, it's a
well,
great
I'll,
tribute. And so, anyway,
I'll give
that's
them.
maybe like kind of my embarrassing, like that I own the Godzilla soundtrack. Just for that, there's a Foo Fighters song on there too that's pretty good. But
Well,
anyway,
the Shrek 2 soundtrack was great.
oh,
They had Nick Cave and Tom Waits and all kinds of stuff on there.
yes, I saw Nick Cave out here one time at the Experience Music Project, and he was great.
Oh yeah, yeah. I saw
Uh,
him. I saw him in Chicago at the Chicago Theater. It must have been about 2000 or so, maybe
okay,
2001 or it
yeah,
was a good concert. It was a good concert.
yeah. Is there a concert that you've been to that you weren't expecting much and then it turned out to be pretty amazing?
You too. I like when I went with Dana. She had an extra ticket. This was when we were dating,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, "Yeah, I'll go." But they weren't really, my favorite band. Honestly, I didn't really like them that much. But when I went there, it was just a really good performance and a really good show, and the set was amazing. And realized I knew far more songs of theirs than I wanted to, acknowledge, I suppose.
Uh,
That was a concert that I was really impressed with. That was a great concert.
yeah. So Chicago Theater?
No, that was in
Oh no, that
college.
was,
That was in college, so that would have been like the Palace of Auburn Hills, I think.
oh sure. Okay.
We went with, I think, yeah, Matt Price went with us too,
Oh cool.
and somebody else, I forget who.
That's fun. What I feel like music plays such a role in emotions and kind of how you're feeling. What if you're kind of down and you want to listen to, as my husband calls it, Sadie Saddington music? Like, what's your go-to for when you're down and you just want to?
I do like, although I go to it when I'm sad and at other times, but I like "Oh Sweet Nothing" by the Velvet Underground.
Uh,
My yoga instructor occasionally starts class with that song, and it's
uh,
actually great for starting yoga.
yeah, is that on the soundtrack for oh, what's the movie with John Cusack in Chicago where he's got
Oh,
the record store?
High Fidelity?
Yeah,
I don't
I feel
know.
like
I only saw that movie once,
okay,
and I liked it, and there were so many songs in it that I couldn't tell
some
you.
great song. Yeah, I feel like that might be on the soundtrack, but I'll have to look that up. But yeah, that's a great song. What about good times? Like songs that are your booster?
Um, well, the song I used to play before tests in school was um, "Search and Destroy" by the Stooges. That was my get revved up, get psyched up, kind of go at it, and
Uh-huh.
it encouraged me. So that's a go-to. I also like Rocks Off, which probably lyrically doesn't fit, but the tempo. And the riff
Mhm.
to it I like a lot. So that's
Mhm.
another sort of, happy song for me.
Who were your kind of musical influences? I mean, did your brother, it sound, your brother was older. Did you kind of get a lot of influence from him, your parents? Like where did
Uh,
musical influence?
both. We I'm a member of a bowling league when we're not in lockdown, and we take over this small bowling alley here, and it's about 10 lanes. I might have told you this the last time we were here. And so we do guest DJ stuff. And one night my first night I was the DJ. And I played, a fair amount of, you know, punk, later punk, like, Husker Du. I played
Hmm.
Social Distortion. Uh, you know, Stiff Little Fingers, and somebody came up to me and said, "So how much older is your brother than you?" Because he had the same experience. It's like everybody's got an older brother that turns them on to this stuff. So that's definitely true with some of those bands. And then, some of the older classic rock bands were certainly my dad. He had albums that, are cool now. Or like, oh wow, you had that at the time, and so it was. It was, I recall like Captain Beefheart, for example. There's an album called Trout Mask Replica, which is this guy with a trout mask head and a top hat. And it scared the crap out of me when I was little. But that's Captain Beefheart is like the hipster's delight, nowadays. So, oh yeah, I was the Beefheart when I was 5, man.
That's cool. That's great. Have you ever met a musician in person? Like, got to talk to someone that you're enamored with, or
I did meet, John Doe that one time that I told you
Mhm.
about, and that was the extent of it.
Yeah,
Um, Otherwise, the answer is no.
yeah.
How about you?
Um, Boy, I don't know that I've ever met anyone in person. I will say that you know, and I want you to share a story with me about like a concert that blew you away. But we one time we went and saw well, I've seen them several times, but the first time I saw the Foo Fighters was here in Seattle at where the Sonics used to play in Key Arena.
Hmm.
And we were on the floor, sort of way back from the stage. And all of a sudden they had this runway that came out and a piece of floor came up and Dave Grohl came all the way out and we were like 10 feet away from him. And it was just, I had this very dorky fangirl moment where I was like, oh my God, like he's right there. Like he's right there. He's right there. So that was kind of cool. I don't think that I've met anyone in person necessarily. Um, uh, maybe the closest thing to that is Jeff Rosenberg and his band came up several years ago, and was I can't remember what year it was. It was a long time ago, and they came up and we went and saw them, and then they stayed with us, which
Oh,
was
neat.
fun.
That is
Yeah,
cool.
so that was our big band moment.
Well, I don't know how I could forget this, but I did meet Prince.
What?
Yeah, it was on our honeymoon when we were flying to Maui, and so I'd gotten first class tickets
Huh?
because it was the honeymoon, and could see we were like in the second or third row, and I could see these two giant men, like 2 rows and on the other side of the plane ahead of me. And then I saw a very little man with amazing hair and dark glasses and like a red velvet suit, and not a subdued maroon. It was primary color red suit. And I was like, holy fuck, I think that's Prince. And so he went to go use the bathroom. And I was like, I gotta use the bathroom now. And so I'm standing in line for, to use the bathroom next. And he comes out and he goes, how you doing? And he had an amazingly low voice. He's like, how you doing? Okay, how are you? So I did meet Prince.
Wow. Okay, that's a
And
great
then I
story.
forgot that is,
I can't help but think of the Fred Armisen version of Prince when you're talking about that. But yes, that's amazing. Like, what a random thing to have.
yeah. And as soon as the plane landed, it was, as you might expect, he got special treatment. The plane taxis up and stops, and everybody is to remain seated unless you're Prince, because he just got up and took off. And nobody, I don't think anybody on the plane knew he was on the plane except for maybe me and Dana.
Wow.
That was cool. And then I was also
That's
shocked
cool.
that, wait, you fly commercial? This is fucking United,
You don't
man.
have a private purple plane
I
that
didn't
like
know.
takes off from Minneapolis? Like, wow. Oh my gosh, that's really cool. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that.
So that was fun.
Um, what's something new that you're listening to that you would recommend? Like,
Uh,
or
I really like Alejandro Escovedo. He's been around a long, long time, but he's got an album that's The Crossing, which is very good, that I like a lot. His prior album, which he had done with Peter Buck from REM, they had done an album called Burn Something Beautiful, and that's a really good record, and it's from 2 or 3 years ago, 2018 or so, maybe 2016. But that's a great record. So, that's new. I also like Jason Isbell. Before he died, Justin Townes Earl. I mean, to the extent that these are new, performers, but at least they had new records out that I really
mhm,
like.
yeah. What do you remember Singles?
The what's that?
Singles? Like it was like a cassette with like one or two songs on it.
I don't know. No, I didn't.
Oh, you don't remember that?
I
Oh,
remember 45s, but I don't remember those. No.
I had a single of oh gosh, I'm gonna be an old lady and blank on this, but it was it's a band from Seattle. Anyway, I had a single of one of their songs and in like ninth grade or something, and it was just like there was like a song, there was like, yeah, just one song on there, and you could buy them for like $2 or something.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so you didn't get on that bandwagon? You don't
I
remember that?
I never even knew such a thing existed until now. I was
Yeah.
I, I was spending $16 for the whole cassette, and
And
fast
the
forward.
giant like plastic,
Oh yeah,
like,
so you couldn't steal it,
right?
and
I
then you couldn't
know.
get into it.
I Patton Oswalt does this whole thing about like, coming back to himself from the future and being like, okay, so you know that cassette that you listen to? So break it in half. And then that's what you have. That's the size of a computer you have. And it plays songs on it. And he's like, the past version of himself goes, well, how many songs can you have on there? He's like, every song ever made in the entire world is on like
Oh,
yeah.
it is amazing, but it's also, it seems like the artists are also getting, jerked around on that too. I don't know
Yeah,
how much. I don't know how the financials work, but
right.
it's just, I get the sense that it doesn't work out well for them.
Yeah. Did your parents have a lot of like record albums
Oh
that you
yeah,
listened to when you were growing up? Yeah.
yeah.
What did they have? What did they listen to?
What you'd expect of old hippies. My dad was a big Rolling Stones fan, so he had a lot of Rolling Stones. We had a fair amount of Grateful Dead. I actually just passed a sign while I was walking my dog, and it looks like one of those, Joe Biden or a campaign sign that you put in your front yard, and the sign said, Presidents are temporary. The Grateful Dead is forever. I was like, what? I did not expect to see that. But we had a fair amount of that. Um, uh, you know, Beatles records,
Mhm.
um, some more obscure stuff like The Fugs,
Ah,
Leonard Cohen. Uh,
yeah.
uh, those are the ones that I remember right off but I mean, my dad had, you know, rows and rows of them too. I mean, there were a couple of hundred,
Yeah.
and that was a part of his collection because at some point in the early 70s or so, they were moving, and my dad left his records in the trunk of his car, and it was hot, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll get those tomorrow," and they all warped. And I was
Oh gosh. Oh, that sucks.
like, "I'll get those tomorrow."
I do miss album cover art. Like
Yeah,
I feel like that's
absolutely.
not, I remember my mom had a Mamas and the Papas album.
When
And
they were in
they
the
were
bathtub.
no, this was like it was like their faces, and the front part of it was like so the it was cut in half,
Mm.
and the top half was all of their, top half of their faces, and the bottom half was all the bottom half of their faces. So you could pull open the top half and it would switch them around.
Oh.
Yeah, it was totally clever. Like, of course, I think of, Spinal Tap, where they're like, there's a fine line between stupid and clever. But when I mean, I just as a kid, I was like fascinated with that album. I just thought that was such a cool thing, and that kind of stuff doesn't really exist anymore. You barely pay attention to the album cover when you're downloading something. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah. No,
not.
I mentioned the Trout Mask replica album cover scared me, but oh yeah, my dad also had a couple of Roxy Music albums, and
Oh.
on them there were like Brian Ferry's either girlfriends or just models, and there was always just a little bit of nipple showing on one or two. So it's like I'm looking at this one, and I was 13. I'm looking at this one. I never listened to the album, but I looked at that cover.
Yeah, there. I mean,
I have
what?
since bought the album. I have it on vinyl, and I have listened to it. Country Life, I think it
Okay.
is.
Yeah, what flew back then probably wouldn't fly now.
Oh well, it might. I mean, maybe there's even more. But I mean, you had to really look at it.
Well, true. Yeah. Um, is there a genre of music that you are not at all interested in, like, or are you kind of everything?
I'm pretty open to anything. Uh, what I don't like is if there's, just a clear lack of sincerity in it,
Mm.
and you get that a fair amount where you can tell somebody's just singing somebody else's song, and
Mhm.
they have a very nice voice, but it's, you're singing somebody else's song. Um, that I don't like, but as long as music is generally sincere, yeah, I'll listen to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also got to be somewhat interesting too. I mean, if it's been done a lot of times and there's nothing sort of new to it, then it's boring.
Yeah. Yeah. With COVID and our progression onward, even if after the vaccine and stuff, like what um what do you feel like the state of concert going will be? I mean, I've seen these things where like people are in like bubbles and like going to concerts. You think of a concert, you're kind of all packed in, and what do you think the state of that is going to become
I
in the near future and further on?
Oh, in the near future, there might be some trepidation. I don't know. I can't. I'm not sure if it'll be people sort of easing their way back into it or just, this huge deluge, the dam bursting because people are so wanting to get out and so much be done with this. I keep thinking to myself, I need to buy like a club and an inn or a hotel or something because they're on hard times right now. But 7 months, that's all anybody's going to want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that feeling like, yeah, I like your analogy. Like, is it going to be a dam burst or are we going to just filter in? Like,
Yeah.
and kind of be like, oh, don't stand too close. Like, just, but
But
yeah.
and maybe it'll be different for different people, clearly. But
Hmm. Hmm.
maybe personally, I'll take it slow. But I still go to old man venues too, where it's not packed in too tight.
Yeah.
It's more refined.
I'll end with this question. Who is an artist, musical artist that you just are blown away by all the time? Like who comes on stage and you're like, wow, that's that's it.
Hmm. Uh, I won't say that I'm blown away all the time by anybody, and that's just, because I think sometimes people take chances as they should, and sometimes I don't necessarily like it, but I like that they took a chance or did something different. But I like Dave Albert a lot. He is very consistent. He really brings it. He's an amazing guitarist. He's an amazing singer. He's got great songs. So, I mean, I really like Dave Albert. He brings it
Yeah,
every time.
yeah. You've seen him live?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was, I've only seen him one. Well, no, I've seen him. I've seen him. Yeah, I've seen him at least twice. He was doing once with his brother, and then once just by himself. And also something I like about him is that he's really generous with his time, and to the extent there's other performers that he likes, he brings them along and does a lot of sharing with them and gets them a lot of exposure. So I think that it's very generous. A lot of what he does.
Yeah,
And others people do that too.
yeah. I think when you see someone live and you see their kind of their dedication and their artistry, like it's pretty impressive, like to witness that. I mean, we saw Chris Cornell a, f- a few years ago, and I just remember thinking like, wow, that voice, that is like I've never heard a voice that sounded so crystal and pure and amazing.
Yeah.
Like just the strengths and yeah. As a speech pathologist, I analyzed it a little too much and I was like, how do you sing for like all these years like in that tone and like it's still you still sound good. Like
Yeah.
that's
No,
pretty impressive. Like
it is impressive. And
yeah.
it's impressive that people do it as long as they do it. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
real work. People don't give musicians the credit that they're due because it's
Yeah.
real work.
Yeah, and yeah, to put yourself out there and kind of be like, all right, this is, with feelings and emotions and expressions in your writing and it's poetry, it's, you know, artistic, it's playing an instrument, it's singing, like there's a lot of aspects to it that are
Uh,
talent driven.
yeah, and then you've got a bunch of critics who will just sit around and some will talk trash about you.
Well, thanks, Andy. This was fun. I love uh, picking your brain
Oh, great.
about this kind of stuff
Well,
and
thanks for having me.
especially about music. So
Oh, good.
thanks.
Thanks, Karen. Talk to you later.
All right.